We're at the Mariposa farm,
Mariposa.
Mariposa farm in Cawston, BC here, which is organic capital. And as luck would have it, Lee McFadden here, the owner of the farm, is the first organic farm here in Cawston. Maybe if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in 1962, my late husband wanted to grow grapes, and that was kind of a momentous time because it was when Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, his book Silent Spring, was published. And she was severely lambasted by the chemical companies in the United States. But years later, as the result of her book, President Kennedy had an investigation done into some of the older type of chemicals, the organophosphates and some of the other older chemicals that were being used, and that created quite a change. But she was very brave. She was a marine biologist. She knew what she was talking about, and that publishing of that book just reinforced my late husband's understanding of how chemicals work in the environment and the effect they can have on food and the detrimental effect they have on the environment. So he then knew that he was going to grow organically. And he planted grapes initially, some 30 acres of grapes. Politically it was the wrong time. He couldn't get a winery license, and you couldn't afford to grow grapes for the two wineries that existed at that time. So we had to go into something else, and we chose ground crops because we had to go into something that was going to give us a crop that year, that was going to actually create an income, and tree fruits don't do that. So in 1970 we started growing ground crops, and we always stayed with the organic methods. And we were the only ones here doing it, and there was one farm over in Oliver. There was one other person, actually, one in Oliver and one up around a little lake, Farley Lake, in Penticton, near Penticton. And we were all considered somewhat oddball. My kids got a terrible time at school because they were the children of those weird people down at the end of the valley.
Just because of organic.
That's right.
Wow.
And a lot of those kids are now adults and growing organically, and a lot of the parents are too. So
Wow.
that's kind of justifying, or nice to see that there has been that mind shift. And the first super, the Similkameen Okanagan Organic Producers Association, the first discussion for its formation actually began in the living room of the house that's down there that burned down. And we were involved with the first certifying body in BC, the first body to certify organically grown in BC, and possibly in Canada, but I'm not sure. There could have been one in Quebec. And I've just continued to be involved at many levels, including writing courses for the Organic Farming Institute of BC. Now, I've studied soil since I started to get into it. By my professional life was as a registered nurse, and it just seemed a natural thing to go into nurturing soil. It's sort of all linked.
No kidding.
We have a lot of people come in here who aren't rolling in money and pay a good price for what they get, but they take it home and they've got a winter supply of squash. They don't throw any away. They know where it came from. I think that people spend money on things like Dream Whip, which has no nutritional value whatsoever. It's a manufactured food full of genetically modified corn products and other products, and yet they'll say they can't afford to buy milk.
Yeah.
Or they'll have their shopping cart full of Coca-Cola, but they can't afford to buy organic. So I don't think that it's organic is so expensive. Even natural health products, I think that there is a huge amount of money and a serious amount of abuse of the public with natural health products. I was reading some research recently about lycopene in tomatoes, and you can buy lycopene powder at a very high price, which saves you eating the tomato or cooking the tomato, because the lycopene is more available when you cook the tomato. And the research pointed that the lycopene in isolation in a powder doesn't have the same effect in the body as it has when it is eaten in the tomato. I think that the public is incredibly manipulated. Too many people are too scared of their food. I mean, even if you can't afford organically grown food, still eat fruit and vegetables. Still eat them. They're better than pop and Dream Whip and I don't know, most of that stuff that's on the shelf, which I never purchase. But most of my food is here. It's simple and it's whole food. And I think it's one of the reasons I don't get sick. I think it's one of the reasons that my children, when they left home in their teens, didn't have a cavity in their head. Didn't have a cavity. And I think it was because of the food they ate. And good dental hygiene. But the good dental hygiene isn't enough. You need the food too. And really our food is our medicine.
Well, speaking of good foods, what is it that you grow here that do you do farm gate sales? Can people come down here?
We do farm gate sales. In fact, we have a person here right now that you met a few minutes ago or saw a few minutes ago, who comes from Hornby Island every year, and has since his children were this size, and he's a grandparent.
Wow.
You know, I've watched his children grow up. He's watched my children grow up, and they still come every year and stock up on food to take away. They make 3 or 4 trips up through the year. They buy peaches, they buy cherries, they take them home, they can them. They're coming back now for onions and squash and peppers and things like that. So we grow, we have yard sales, we have numerous people who put in an order from one year to the next and take it home and can it, store the squash. We've had an opportunity to grow just about anything that you can grow in the Okanagan Okanagan. And we've learned what doesn't suit this soil. It's too much of a battle. Don't try to grow potatoes here. Now, if I had lowland along the river in Cawston, potatoes would do beautifully. They don't do well up here. I have a little veggie garden there, and I grow a few potatoes so that we have our own potatoes. But I'm not going to grow them commercially. Tomatoes do beautifully. They're ripe. They have been nutritionally tested. They're full of all the nutrients that they should have. Cucumbers do beautifully. Melons, squash, peppers. So they're the items that we grow the most of, the products that will grow well here and that we can rotate the soil. We don't ever want to grow so much that we can't continually rotate. We try not to grow in one area any more than 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And then we leave it to a leguminous green manure crop. And we grow soil. So we grow cash crop and we grow soil. And we alternate. And the soil organic matter has been steadily building rather than depleting. The soil microbiota or soil life has been steadily increasing too. And one of the really rewarding things, last year we had a PhD student doing a bee study, a native pollinator study. She found a pollinator that she had never seen before. And of all of the farms that she studied, this had the highest concentration and the broadest variety of native pollinators, which are declining worldwide. Honeybees are declining, native pollinators are declining, and this is an incredibly important message to get out there that most people don't understand. Oh, it's a bee, it's a wasp, let's get rid of it, it might sting me. Well, the little sting is not going to hurt you, but the starvation that will ensue if we don't have pollinators will. I don't think it's one thing. I think we're living in an environment that is bombarded in many ways. Let's just take honeybees. They now understand that honeybees need a complex diet of blossoms. Now, many honeybees are trucked many thousand miles during the season. They'll start way down south and they'll go to the orange blossoms. And they're in there for a period of time, and then they'll move on to the almond blossoms. And they're there for a period of time, and they're onto a truck. They might only be there for a week. Then they're onto a truck, and they're moved into whatever the next succession is, up the country, up the continent. That is incredibly stressful. They don't have a home. They're turned into gypsies.
Okay,
That is
yeah.
not their natural lifestyle. Their natural lifestyle is to find a hollow in a tree, build a honeycomb, and stay there until they swarm and they go and do another one. So that is an incredible stress. The other thing is they're just eating the nectar from and pollen from almond blossom, and that might be deficient in this and that. And then they're just eating the pollen and nectar from something else, and that's deficient. They don't have a rounded diet. You know, for too longer periods, they don't have a rounded diet. So that's one stress. Another factor that I was just reading about, which I would never have thought of, but as soon as I read it, I thought it makes so much sense. You go for a drive, and look how dirty your windshield gets.
Yeah.
You're killing insects. Hundreds of thousands of them. Think of all the cars in North America. Think of all the cars in the world. Killing by the thousands every time you drive out all these insects. And in that will be honeybees, native pollinators, and so on. Bumblebees, a very, very, very important pollinator, and its habitat destruction. Our minds are too tidy. We want everything burned. We don't want some leaf litter left, and we don't want this left. And people burn along their fence line, and they don't realize that along the fence line is all this stuff, which the bumblebee has taken and chewed up and made a nest in the ground. And that's where she propagates. Other pollinators need weeds. You notice there's a fair smattering of weeds around here.
With all the organic farms, actually, I've noticed
That's right. And
Yeah.
there isn't early in the season. When the plants are being established, we keep it pretty clean. Two reasons to not do it later is all of the pollinators need the blossoms and the pollen. And there will be hollow stalks amongst that, which a lot of the pollinators will overwinter in, or they will make their nests in. So we're thinking native pollinators all the time. We're not thinking this immaculate image that is the good farmer. Bare soil is dying soil. To go back to pollinators, I think it's many things. I don't think you can point your finger at one thing. And they all come together and they become overwhelming.
Now, with all your produce here, you sell it at the farm. Can we find you at the Penticton Farmers Market as well?
No.
Any markets?
No, although we may go back to the Osoyoos market next year. We've got established markets where we ship the stuff out, and for us at this point in time, that is the route that we've chosen. Although next year, like I said, we may go just to Osoyoos.
Well, thank you very much, Lee. This has been very, very informative, and hopefully the people viewing this understand. Like for a big message here is, you know, some people may be happy with living with fast foods, processed foods. At the end of the day, nobody's here to tell you to change what you're doing, but it's the freedom of choice that we need. And with the technologies behind genetically modified foods, which would be companies such as Monsanto, Dole, and DuPont, this technology takes over all crops, and it will ruin all organic foods, and we will never have that health again. So it's the freedom of choice is what we're trying to promote here, but at the same token, letting you know that if you have health issues, you know, I mean, there is other solutions aside from allopathic medicines, you know. So thank you very much, Lee.
And I'd like to make a comment about genetically modified foods. The companies that are in that business know what they're doing. They exercise a lot of power, and I would say that he who holds the seed owns the world.
Yes.
I think it's as simple as that. It comes down to power.
Yeah.
You cannot plant, you have to continually buy from them.
Yeah.
So we need to, the people need to control the seed. And then they will control their own food. And people should garden, even if it's a pot on a balcony, with some tomatoes and another pot with something.
Yeah, rooftop gardens, all kinds of urban farms are going up. A lot of people see it and understand it, you know, but that's the mission statement for Monsanto, is to control the seeds of the world, you know, so it's up to we the consumer, because it's no longer we the people.
we have the power.
Yes, we do.
We just have to remind ourselves of that and take it back.
Yes, yes, yes we do, not
Anyway.
yes we can, yes we do.